Hey everybody, and welcome to the regular council meeting of June the 4th, 2019. We are meeting this evening on the Squamish Territory lands within the district of town of Gibsons. We have an agenda this evening, and I don't know if there are copies of the agenda outlined there or if you've accessed it online if you're interested, but there is an agenda. As far as I know, it has not changed. I've had a request from the CAO to say a few words himself as item 4.4, which would be after the business arising. We could put it there, please. Council agreement. And all agreed then. Could I have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended? Councillor Crowell, Councillor D'Andrade. But we'll move forward. And the first item on the agenda is the adoption of minutes, and we have minutes from the regular council meeting of May 21, 2019, and a recommendation those minutes be adopted. Councillor Ladwig, Councillor Lumley, thank you very much. All in favor? Thank you. Business arising from those minutes. So we have 4 items coming forward. The first one is the Youth Councillor Initiative of the Seniors Cafe. And for those who aren't aware of what that is, I'd like to just ask one of our youth representatives to explain that project. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you. That didn't sound good. All right, perfect. Okay, thank you guys. So the Seniors Cafe is a project that Jason and I, the other youth councillor, have been really interested in pursuing these last couple of months. So this will be a once-a-month dinner put on at the Elphinstone Secondary School, organized by students attending Elphinstone in conjunction with the ACIP program, which is like a culinary arts program run at the school. So this would be a once-a-month dinner for seniors in the community to come out and engage with the youth. And so it will be a really good opportunity for them to share experiences and have a really nice dinner together. And also the ACIT students would have opportunity putting on events and serving and making food and stuff. So it's quite good all around. So for some of the details, we're not quite sure of the number of tables that we would need, but we would have about 6 people at each table. We would have about 2 students at each table. The students' dinners would be covered. It would just be like an open dialogue between seniors and youth. We would especially be targeting seniors that are sort of living in the isolation of their homes and maybe aren't quite out every day engaging in the community. We would have first aid responders to be present in the case of an emergency. The Superintendent Patrick Bocking is in support of the project, as is Chef Barry, and he's in charge of coordinating the culinary arts program at the school. So the date of this project, it would start next year, I'm assuming probably November or October, and it would run throughout the school year. So this past week, Jason and I have gone around to classes at school, and we've advertised the project to get students on board to help us spearhead it for next year, as we're going to be off in university. And we've had some interest. We've had some people sign up that are really into helping us, and so this project is really shaping up to do well. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Jason, for your, both Jason and Sasha, for your initiatives on that. And it'd be nice if you were around sometime next year to have dinner and participate, but I know you'll be well away. So that we have a recommendation from council, and that is that the town of Gibson support the Youth Councillor Initiative of the Seniors Cafe, working in partnership with School District 46. Moved, Councillor Crowell, seconded, Councillor Ladwig. All in favor? Thank you. Thank you very much. That passes. Fireworks. We're all waiting for that one. How many here are waiting for fireworks? Great. Okay. You should have been here this afternoon. Yeah. A couple things about this, and I made some notes, and I tried to make short notes. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do that, so I made long notes. I didn't have time. But let me just read what I have to say about fireworks to start this conversation off. First of all, thank you for your interest in continuing the annual July fireworks in Gibsons. This is a project that has been planned and presented by the Sunshine or the Sea Cavalcade Committee. They've organized it. They've organized volunteers. They've had the insurance, and they've had the permits. The town assisted by providing funding, which over the years escalated from about $8,000 in 2005 to almost $16,000 last year. When I was CAO in 2005, I recommended to Council that the project become an annual budget allocation and not part of our grant in aid program, which has also required them to apply annually as opposed to being a line item in our budget. And that was done, so since 2005 it has been a line item and has always been supported by Council. There has been a good deal of discussion about this project in the community and about the possibility it would not happen this year. We have received phone calls, emails, letters, Facebooks, and many personal approaches. Unfortunately, not all the communication or discussions have been civil, and that's unfortunately become a normal part of the issues today. We can do better. In May, House Sound Pulp and Paper offered to plan and fund this event as part of the campaign, part of the company's 110-year celebration. Today, they withdrew this offer due to the announced fire ban that includes fireworks and because of smoke that is already in the air from fires elsewhere. The fire ban came into effect in June for the South Coast, and although it is possible to apply for an exemption, it is not guaranteed. And in my discussion with the provincial authorities today, it is less likely this year due to the projected hot, dry summer in this area. We have options. I've heard about a laser light show, I've heard about light painting, and I've heard about a festival of lights for the harbor. But at this point in time, we do not have any proposals or any costs. House Sound Pulp and Paper is still prepared to participate on a project, and the town still has $16,000 available. In order to move forward, we need a proposal, we need volunteers, and somebody committed to make this project happen. The town doesn't have staffing capacity to make this work. In the summertime, we have less capacity because that's the time when many of our employees are on vacation. So we would like to see something happen. I'm not convinced that this year, given the projected hot, dry summer, given the existence of the smoke that's already in the air, that fireworks is the right option. But Council is prepared to work with whoever wants to come forward with a plan as a group. The Council may consider using our own insurance for that. The fire chief does not recommend we get involved with it due to the incident that occurred last year on the barge. But he would not be issuing the permit. He's already told us that it would have to be a provincial permit. Other things we looked at. I spoke with somebody today about the idea of getting all the sailboats in the harbor to raise their sails and having a light show with different colored lights coming bouncing off the sails and lighting up the harbor. Not Christmas lights. We're talking about different kinds of lights. In some sense, you'll see that they did a project in Seashell where they painted a building sort of thing, and they have different ways of doing that. The whole idea of kind of a light festival it used to be candles, but I think now you can do it with LED lights. I'm hoping they don't sink to the bottom of the ocean at the end of the day, but they are recoverable. But we need something. It's never been done by Council. It's never been done by staff. Staff has always worked with the Sea Cavalcade Committee to facilitate Sea Cavalcade with barricades and road closures and necessary permits, but we've never done the project. And the one staff member that we have who has been very active in working in the outdoors, Wendy Gilbertson, is scheduled to retire. And so that it's a challenge in that area. So while I appreciate the interest of Council, appreciate the interest of the community, right now, as I say, House Sound Pulp and Paper has stepped away. They want to participate in something. They're happy to do that. So it will be up to Council as to whether they want to go forward with fireworks with the existing $16,000 that we have, or look for another option and look for other people to come forward and do something this year. So we do need a signature event for the town. There's no doubt about it. Sea Cavalcade has been that. This is a year that we can look at planning for a future event. The idea that has raised the specter of people losing Sea Cavalcade has become a real sense of loss to people. I can understand that. 50 years it was here. Whether or not we can replace it at this time, for this year, I don't know. But certainly we are prepared to work with whoever wants to step up to help make something happen. So, Council, comments?
I've expressed this before. I've been in the community for 40 years, and I've experienced Sea Cavalcade, and it's been a great event. And I certainly appreciate the huge problem the Sea Cavalcade Society had in reaching out for volunteers and not getting the response from the community. Small towns depend critically on volunteer participation, and the Sunshine Coast is in an awkward situation. We have 400 registered charities who depend on volunteers, and the Sea Cavalcade Society is but one of them. I have concern, as many people do, with the fireworks, particularly from the fire aspect, but also, and I'll switch hats very quickly here, as a first responder, for our local fire department, which is a volunteer fire department, they were the ones who originally started Sea Cavalcade. It was originally the firemen's event. And when they say to us they would not issue a permit under these existing conditions, to go over their heads and obtain a permit from the province and then ask our local volunteers to deal with the consequences, I think is just totally unfair. Yes, it'd be wonderful to have the fireworks if we were back into the rainforest situation, but we're not in that situation. And to go over our local volunteers and ask them to deal with the consequences of a party, ostensibly, I think is totally unfair. And I personally would not ask them to do it.
Councillor D'Andrade?
I would like to reframe the conversation. I don't think it's about fireworks. I think we need an event, and Mayor Beamish was clear about that. I agree, fireworks are beautiful. I enjoy many times fireworks, obviously, but I have concerns with fire especially. Climate change, the whole world is burning. The situation is about to increase. We need to start embracing change and force us to change our mental model. So I think this is a great opportunity to do so. I was willing to support fireworks this year, as everybody was going to do, and then we put a permanent ban, maybe until climate change again and becomes cooler. But due to the situation, I think it's just a great opportunity, and I think with creativity we can come up with a lot of events, and perhaps local people would benefit, because right now I'm assuming that the fireworks, we have to maybe hire a company from outside, maybe buy fireworks from outside, maybe with more creative things we can even engage the local community. And I would like just a clarification with regards to this letter. I don't know, Mayor Beamish, are they saying they will be working their own event, or they would be willing to support an event if someone comes forward?
I think that's both. They are going to have they're having a 110 celebration themselves for the company, and I think they would do it as a family community event. They'd also participate with us.
And I wonder if at this point we could even possibly use the funds to hire a volunteer coordinator. Just put in there.
Councillor Lumley?
If House Sound Pulp and Papers volunteered to pay for the fireworks, and they're going to have a 110 celebration, why don't we ask them to have it in the fall when there's no threat of fire? If they're willing to pay for it, maybe the whole town and the whole community could get involved with their celebration as well. It would be another community event, and they could put on the fireworks, and everybody could be happy. Just an idea.
Move it out of the fire closure season.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly an option. Yeah. Councillor Ladwig, you have?
No, I think you've captured the issue really well. I mean, this isn't just about whether we support fireworks or not anymore. There's a whole bunch of other issues around it that make it challenging for the community. As Councillor Kroll mentioned, it's the firefighters, it's the fact that we've got staff retiring. I mean, I'm not sure what more I can say. I guess the thing I'm wondering is, where do we go from here?
Well, I think we can. I'd like to see give some time to see if somebody would come forward with a proposal. It certainly from the letters, emails, and comments we received. I mean, you've got pro, you've got against, and you've got I don't care. So we got those three groups in the community, very strongly so. Some of them, when I see the letterhead of the SPCA coming in and saying no, and I see the letterhead of the Clean Air Society coming in and saying no, there's certainly some organizational behind some of the no's, and it would be nice to receive a proposal. We're certainly at any time prepared to meet. We met with the Sea Cavalcade Committee a month or so ago. Anytime anybody wants to or is available to come forward with an idea, with a proposal. I know that lady talked to this afternoon, this evening, about the coloring the sails of the sailboats on a nice evening and in the harbor, and making it just a nice spectacular event, perhaps a light show to music or something like that could be interesting. Make it a family event. The Sea Cavalcade is going to be having the August 11th event in Weingarten Park, and that's a family event, and that's going to be put on by Sea Cavalcade. But we would more than welcome somebody to come forward with a proposal. And as I say, that we don't have the staff. I understand there is the skills in the community to put on fireworks. Perhaps Councillor Lumley's idea of putting it on at a different time frame could be better. It's not going to. That's going to resolve one thing of the fire ban. It's not going to resolve the other issues of that are concerned to the animals and those others. So that it's surprisingly a very divisive issue. I guess it's never come up as a divisive issue before, because it was never kind of an option to have a do-over. Now we're in that do-over stage of saying, do we really want to do that? So that I really appreciate the input that we have, especially the civil input that we've had, that we can acknowledge and respond to. And we do need to acknowledge the letter to Howe Sound, and it would be with thanks for their offer, and that we are prepared to work with them on the event if we come up with some ideas. And Councillor Ladwig.
So maybe we should have like a Gibsons challenge. Are we putting this out to the community to come back to us?
Absolutely.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely.
Come forward, bring us your ideas, and then maybe we'll select something, hopefully in time, and see if we can get Howe Sound on side. And
it could involve a bike race. I'm up for that. And I think that we need to also work towards the event with the Sea Cavalcade Committee, the Society, in August, and celebrate with them and recognize their volunteers, because that's one of the things they were going to do, is pull together the volunteers that have worked with Sea Cavalcade over the years and celebrate with them. So that we certainly want to get involved with that, so that we have $16,000. It's not going anywhere. We're not reassigning it to sewer or any other projects. We have $16,000 set aside for that, and we welcome proposals, and council would have to approve that, but we welcome your ideas. Councillor D'Andrade.
I would like just to make a call to be environmental friendly. I think, if you see all the discussions around right now is about climate change, I think humans in general are becoming aware of the environmental footprint that we are having in the planet. So I think nature is our most important asset, is our slogan. So I think I would like if the community can come forward with, very cool, clean proposals. We need to, it's a new paradigm. We are just at the beginning, and I think this is a great way to embrace.
You get technical. I called it a do-over. You call it a new paradigm. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Youth Councillor Stipek.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Councillor D'Andretti. I think that this is a great opportunity for us to embrace maybe a more environmentally friendly way of celebrating the summer. And I just wanted to clarify, would this be in conjunction with the August 11th event?
No, it would be separate. It could be. I mean, when we talked with the Sea Cavalcade about the August 11th event, they are focused on an event in Weingarten Park for families, including a film. There could also be happening, for example, the Outrigger corporate race could happen at that time. There could be other things happening in the community at that same time. But we've got to remember that that August event is the same time as the show and shine in Seashelt, and the drag race is in Seashelt. So we have never got involved in competing with our neighboring community in the timeline for events.
So then, do we have a specific date in mind or a time frame?
No, we don't. No, it's been traditionally, I think the Sea Cavalcade has been in July, third week in July, and that would be keep that tradition alive if there was something at that time. And although it's not impossible, but given the scope of a project, it's challenging to plan and organize something between now and then. So, no. Okay, enough said on that. We are not at this point in time moving forward with fireworks, to be clear. Okay? So, next, item 4.3, Tree Bylaw Select Committee. At the last council meeting, council will recall that we had a presentation, a very good presentation from a resident who was asking that we get on with a tree bylaw. We have a bylaw that covers the trees on public property, parks and rights-of-way and things of this nature, but we don't have a bylaw that covers trees on private land. Many communities are moving that way, and at the present time, the District of Seashelt is moving into a tree bylaw on private land and are going through some dialogue on that now. So what I've asked, and Councillor D'Andretti has agreed, that she would head up a committee, a select committee, to investigate the opportunity for a tree bylaw in Gibsons and what that would look like and what that would mean. Select committee is provided for under our bylaws and under the community charter, and it would consist of a member of council as chair and then people from the community who would be volunteers and who would be appointed to the select committee to review that. It doesn't have to be a huge committee, but if we have other people who are interested in getting involved in understanding the issues around our trees on private land as well as trees on public land, and maybe we need to make some change there. So that's what I've asked. So the recommendation is that a tree bylaw select committee be established to provide council with recommendations concerning tree management in the town of Gibsons. And I'd further recommend add to that, I don't think it's added to that, and that Councillor D'Andretti be appointed to chair that committee. Could I have a motion, please? Moved. Councillor Kroll, seconded. Seconded by Councillor Lumley. Discussion. All in favor? Oh, discussion? Yes, go ahead. Councillor Edwig.
It's not that I don't support a tree bylaw. Of course I do. In fact, I've been talking about it. Councillor D'Andrea and I have been talking about it. I totally support it. But I have to admit, I feel like I've got a list almost as long as my arm now of policies and bylaws that I'd like to see us working on and that have come up before this one. And I'm kind of wondering, it's about process. Like, why are we setting aside a select committee for this one and not the affordable housing strategy, not the cannabis bylaw, not the, I'm sure I can think of others. I'm drawing a blank right now. The SRT bylaw. Yeah. So, I mean, I would love to see a policy subcommittee or anyway, so I'll just leave it at that.
I think staff have consultants working on some of those other projects at the present time.
Yeah,
Stats?
thank you, Mayor. We do have a consultant working on short-term rentals right now, and we will have a consultant working on the cannabis bylaw as well, and that'll come forward to council.
So this was an initiative in directly response to the presentation and the urgency of that delegation that came forward last week. So that it would be done in parallel, but it'd be done by the select committee with some assistance from staff. But I suspect that'd be the bylaw officer at some point in time, in terms of looking at the concept of how that could be enforceable. We would have to do a terms of reference for the select committee, and that would be dealt with.
So can we form a select committee for affordable housing bylaw?
We could. Yeah. Did you want to chair that one?
I think I would.
Okay. I can make a motion.
I would like to make a motion that we form an affordable housing policy or strategy
policy select committee. Sorry, yes, select committee.
Select committee.
Select committee just to investigate options. Yeah.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. You have a motion on the table currently?
Yes, that's
Do you
true.
have a vote?
That's true. Let's all vote on that, okay? Shall we? Okay. All in favor? Okay. Approved. And could we bring that up under new business? This one was on the agenda. Could we bring that up under new business? Another select committee? Okay. Thank you. Okay. Moving on then to the CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On behalf of staff, I wish to make a statement about the Gibsons Alliance and its impact on the town of Gibsons. Mr. Mayor, once again, the Gibsons Alliance of Business and Community is back with yet another campaign to defame and discredit the town of Gibsons and its staff. The latest, according to GABC, is that staff is proposing a project to upgrade a critical piece of sewer infrastructure, the Prowse Road lift station, for the sole purpose of helping the George Hotel, and that we failed to give Council all the necessary information to support your decision. GABC apparently has all the right information, however, if only Council listened to their experts and not its own staff and consultants. For the record, the lift station is nearly 50 years old, and every council since 2006 has been aware of the problem. The decision to upgrade it was made by the previous council, who were committed to responsible asset management and supported by the current council at the recent budget deliberations. The personal attacks and conspiracy theories by members of the Alliance against town staff have had a very negative impact in terms of morale, productivity, and as the senior administrator, I feel a sense of responsibility to speak out against the ongoing bullying and harassment we all feel. Since 2013, the Gibsons Alliance has been involved in over 40 legal and quasi-legal actions related to the town's processing of the George development application. These include 4 legal challenges, nearly 30 ombudsperson's complaints, a human rights tribunal claim, multiple FOI requests, and complaints to the RCMP, the Privacy Commissioner, the Municipal Auditor General, and nearly every provincial ministry. So far, all of these frivolous complaints have been found to be unsubstantiated. The bullying campaign at times has been mean-spirited and personal. The town lost the services of its last Director of Planning due in part to the constant harassment from GABC. Right from the start of his employment with the town, several members of the Alliance suggested we consider replacing the planner because, in their words, he apparently lacked appreciation for GABC's vision of how the town should develop. Shortly after we refused, GABC filed a 34-page professional misconduct claim against the Director of Planning with the Planning Institute of BC. 2 years and thousands of dollars later, that claim too was found to be unsubstantiated. The local political organization fashions itself as the giver of consent for any development proposed in the town of Gibsons. As soon as a project is announced, GABC leaders will let the developer know that they better listen to them or else. Failing to meet their demands could lead to a full-blown political campaign, including fake news web pages, Facebook rants, letters to the editor, and threats of legal action. And if, ultimately, Council determines a different result for a particular project, legal action will soon follow. Relatedly, the Ocean Mount Association, an Upper Gibsons chapter of the Gibsons Alliance, is following exactly the same route in their approach to the Eagle View project. They too met with the developer, tried to negotiate for a year, and when things went a different way, the political campaign was on, the fake news website was up, and then, not surprisingly, the Supreme Court petition followed. So far, the work of JBC and the Ocean Mount Association have cost the town hundreds of thousands of dollars and is not over yet. The town is still owed over $10,000 in unpaid JBC legal bills. JBC, however, is not against all development. As an example, with the Sea Glass project on Marine Drive, JBC was surprisingly quiet, despite their project being seen by most folks as one of the most audacious proposals the community has ever entertained. And the developer often bragged about the support it enjoyed from JBC, unlike the George Hotel, of course. The more egregious example of JBC's hypocrisy is in his senior member and former mayor, Barry Janek. He has been playing a lead role in an attempt to rezone, after the fact, an illegally built development in Revelstoke. In 2015, on the days that he was not strongly opposing development in Gibsons, Janek was in Revelstoke, acting as the lead planning consultant for a Brazilian transportation tycoon who, shortly after acquiring the residential property, illegally built a ski resort, including spas, lodges, and even plans to build a helipad. The resort was eventually shut down by the regional district after it was discovered that the spa was dumping its water directly into the environment. And this is the guy that just last week wrote to several provincial ministries and even the RCMP calling for an investigation into the town of Gibsons. An important question remains in all of this. We know that, unfortunately, the hundreds of thousands of dollars that the town is spending to defend its processes and meet its obligations in regulating development comes directly from local taxpayers. Where does JBC's money come from? And who funds them? Waterfront offices, web pages, legal challenges, expert reports, etc. It can't be cheap. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for this opportunity to express staff's collective frustration with the way the town and its staff are being unfairly characterized by this organization.
Thank you. Council wish to comment? Questions? Any further? Thank you. We'll move on then to, Councilor Diendrad.
I would like just to make a comment. I have not been part of the whole story. When I moved here, I heard a lot of things. And my analysis to this situation, I think, is about processes. So, not making anybody right or wrong. I think process matters. Because it's like the firework. People have different opinions. We need to respect the community. The thing with the UCA, I see is the same, right? They voiced their concerns, and somehow these concerns were not convened in a way. So I think the war, it's like war, right? Countries decide to war because they stopped the dialogue. I think we should use this moment. I understand your frustration, and I probably understand the frustration from the other side too. I'm not here taking sides. But I think we should use this opportunity to also evolve process. We talk about transparency, communication. This is about time. We need to change. We have residents that felt very frustrated with whatever the George was about. And I'm here not to judge the George, but I'm here just to understand that it's the same force that staff feels frustrated. It's the same force, it's equal force that the community feels frustration. So hopefully we take this as an opportunity to think open mind, the same way that we have to change the way we embrace the economy and the environment. It's time for a shift, and I appreciate your letter because I think it brings this to the surface. But I think at the same time, I think we all have to take responsibility, not to blame anyone, but just to see what can we do. Otherwise, we're not going to go anywhere, and there will be another group, and there will be another group. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, we'll move on the agenda to. Next item on the agenda is proclamations. Lori Lesk, editor of Pride Guide and director of Sunday in the Park with Pride Society. Would you like to come forward, Ms. Lesk?
Thank you. Pardon my back. I don't know how to do this. It is my absolute pleasure to be here this evening, Mr. Mayor, Council, important people in the town of Gibsons, and regular folk like myself in the audience there. My name is Lori Lesk, and I'm the director of Sunday in the Park with Pride Society. We are dedicated to creating community for LGBTQ2 youth on the Sunshine Coast. It's a lot of letters and they change all the time. I started this society in 2016. We launched out of the year having done our very first Sunday in the Park it's easy for me to say, Sunday in the Park with Pride and the little Pride Parade, and then we started having regular monthly drop-in groups. We have a transgender mentorship and support network group, and we have a regular youth group every month, and we have a parents of LGBTQ2 children's group, and we've been doing this now for a little over, I guess it's 2.5 years. And over the course of this, we also have running Sunshine Coast Pride. So regularly, for 10, 12 years, they've been organizing a dance. And as different people came into the community, as we are wont to do, we all started creating our own events. So we added on a film event called Queer Projections, and then we added on Read Out Loud, which is Queer Lit Night, and then I added on Sunday in the Park with Pride, and we now have a queer art exhibit and many, many events. Now, Sunday in the Park with Pride Society is a youth organization. We're very different than anything that you will see anywhere when you come to our Pride celebration. It is everything that happens there is youth oriented, and it is thanks to the town of Gibsons and many other groups on the Sunshine Coast who have assisted us and enabled us to have these events thanks to your funding and your support. You were the first ones to raise the flag some years ago. It's been an on and off event. We're doing it again. And, well, I kind of made an executive decision to go from Pride Month, Pride Week to Pride Weekend to Pride Month because we couldn't fit everything in at the same time. So then I realized, of course, after I had done it that I have to go to 18 events in the month. Now, I don't go to 2 if I can help it. So I just think this is wonderful. I don't know anywhere else really that has Pride Month. I really do not know. Nobody's told me. I don't know. So this is a unique. What an amazing community we have here. We just have a wonderful community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a proclamation then to read. If you just hold your spot, we'll read a proclamation. The town of Gibsons and the Sunshine Coast as a whole has a large and diverse, multi-generational, multi-ethnic LGBTQ2 community comprised of lesbian, gay, bisexual, asexual, transgender, queer, questioning, agender, genderqueer, non-binary, two-spirit people, and more who honor a culture that is distinct and vibrant with its own history and traditions. I think I must be in there somewhere too. Sunshine Coast Pride has evolved from an annual Pride dance to a month of Pride events celebrating LGBTQ2 people, arts, culture, and recreation, all of which provide vital opportunities for the whole LGBTQ2 community to identify programming, to identify and connect with each other. More importantly, the abundance of youth programming during Sunshine Coast Pride Month provides vital opportunities for LGBTQ2 youth to identify and connect with each other and with the larger local LGBTQ2 community on the coast. And whereas it is important for the LGBTQ2 youth to know who the people are in their community, and for the LGBTQ2 youth to have a sense of belonging to their community, as community is essential to both mitigating and addressing social, emotional, and cognitive isolation factors which contribute to the high risk for suicide, substance abuse, and addiction within the LGBTQ2 youth population. In other words, strong community saves lives. And whereas the Pride Month brings visibility to both the LGBTQ2 people who call this home and the multitude of exceptional allies in the community, all of whom strive to create a safe and inclusive community free from prejudice and discrimination. And the visibility of our LGBTQ2 and allies community is especially important to LGBTQ2 youth because it helps create healthy, supportive, welcoming, and safe place that we can all call home. Now therefore, I, William Beamish, Mayor of Gibsons, do hereby proclaim that June 2019 be known as Pride Month in the town of Gibsons. Proclamation 2019, June 4, Mayor William Beamish. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I already have the house and I did, but I need to get up off the ground. Thank you very much.
I should also announce that Mr. Newman informed me that shortly the rainbow crosswalks at the 5 corners will be painted.
Oh, what colors do they decide on?
Yeah, well, you'll have to talk to the.
Like 6 or 8.
Okay. Thank you, Lori. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, we have now the first opportunity for inquiries this evening. We have 2 inquiry opportunities on our agenda. The first one is for items that are on the agenda tonight, and the second one is for items that are basically up for grabs, other things that the community would like council to know about or ask questions about. So items on the agenda tonight, you've seen the agenda. Please indicate if you want to ask questions that will help council make good decisions in the next period of time. Blake McLeod?
Blake McLeod. So, council's already made a decision about the fireworks, but I've been. Many of us in this room have been very closely following the debate over fireworks or something else, and it has at times got quite caustic. And there was a division with 2 petitions, kind of dueling petitions. And the last time I checked, the pro-fireworks petition was a little bit ahead of the against the fireworks petition. And that aside, there was a lot of chance, I think, for the community to reflect upon who we are, where we've been and where we're going. Councillor DeAndretti's comments kind of, I think, lead us toward that future. But I think it's also really important in this conversation to expand it to the thought of what our community was, and that is that we started off as a resource-based economy, as people who were tied to the land through resource extraction. And it's acknowledged in many points within other conversations in this community that part of our existence as a community, and full disclosure, I've only been here for 3 years, and it's something during the last campaign we talked about it as well. Just the idea that we're shifting, and we have, just to use the Persephone Brewing as an example, we have this trend toward more of a youthful, people are coming here, they're being drawn from the city because of affordability issues, although if you ask the people that are here...
Blake, I've got to ask if there's a question in there somewhere.
It's not a question, it's just a comment, just to say that I think we need to embrace that idea that we are shifting and think about what we're becoming as a community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Suzanne Singer?
Suzanne Singer, I didn't have a question because I didn't know that the CAO was going to make such a, in my opinion, outrageous statement. My question now, I have threefold. Mayor Beamish, did you vet that statement?
No.
You were aware that it would be made, but you didn't vet it?
That's correct.
Thank you. And so I can assume that no one on council knew that was coming? No? Okay. So my second part of the question is, the CAO spoke for all of staff at the town. And so I'm curious to know whether or not staff vetted that statement.
Name, Samir?
Yes, Ken.
It is my responsibility to put out that statement. I wrote it myself and read it myself. They were aware of it, but that's the responsibility that I have, and I'm prepared to defend any statement that I made in there.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, seeing no further questions, we'll move on to committee reports. And the first report is the Plan and Development Committee minutes of May 21, 2019, and a recommendation that the minutes of the Plan and Development Committee be received. Councillor Lumley, Councillor Ladwig, all in favor? Thank you. And the next one is the bylaw enforcement policy, that the bylaw enforcement policy 3.16 be forwarded to Council for adoption. Yes, that's on. I guess we're going to see that come up later. That's a recommendation. Is that to be adopted?
It's up. This is just to be forwarded to council.
Right. Yes. Okay. And so that'll be up for on favor. Move Councillor Kroll, Councillor Ladwig, all in favor. Thank you. Administration reports. And the first one is 8.1, Director of Planning, Bylaw Enforcement Policy 3.16, and there it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. So this bylaw enforcement policy was discussed at the May 21st Planning and Development Committee, and the Planning and Development Committee recommended adoption. Since then, we have had a legal review of it, so we sent it for legal review, and out of that, the legal review suggested clarifying some of the staff roles and responsibilities under the procedures section, and it also suggested an addition of procedures for formal enforcement where voluntary compliance has failed. So on page 5 of the policy, it outlines the more formal enforcement procedures, which include municipal ticketing, issuance of a bylaw enforcement notice, a registration of a notice on title, and then further steps for additional enforcement. Basically, the policy is the same except for tweaking where it said staff, it replaced it with the bylaw enforcement officer, or together with the director of planning, the bylaw enforcement officer would determine the next steps in enforcement. Thank you.
Okay, a motion to receive the report. Councillor Crowell, Councillor D'Andrade, all in favor? Received. Now and there's a recommendation in the package, not the report, but in the package, that the bylaw enforcement policy 3.16 be adopted as presented. Before we do that, is there any discussion of the report that was received? Any council have any questions? No? Okay. Someone like to make that motion? Councillor Crowell, Councillor Ladwig, all in favor? Thank you. That's approved. Thank you. The next one is the 8.2, the Director of Finance, report of council remuneration expenses and contracts for 2018. Mr. Douglas.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is a statutory requirement that every once a year that council must have prepared a report separately listing council remuneration expenses, benefits, and contracts as follows, which those sections are in the community charter. And so really we're just looking for council to receive this report with the attached financial information. Now this information ends up through into the statement of financial information report that comes up next.
Motion to receive the report. Councillor Lumley, Councillor D'Andrade, all in favor? Okay, any questions about the report, Council? Okay, moving on then to 8.3, and that's the Director of Finance, Statement of Financial Information, report for 2018.
So this report's a little bit larger. And this is an annual requirement that the Finance Department has to put out, what they call a Statement of Financial Information. And what it includes is the audited financial statements, the schedule of guarantees or indemnity agreements, schedule of remuneration and expenses, statement of severance agreements, schedule payments to suppliers of goods and services, statement of financial information approval, management report, and the checklist. And we will see these financial statements that start this report. They are also going to be in the annual report, so they're out there quite often. And so once again, we're just looking for council to receive the report and then approve the statement of financial information.
Okay, first of all, a motion to receive. Councillor Crowell, Councillor D'Andrade, all in favor? Okay, now any questions about the report? Have you had a chance to look at it? And Councillor Ladwig, sorry.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I was just wondering, I take it it's the very standard template type of report, so we probably don't have a lot of flexibility in how it's reported out.
Correct, yes.
I was just curious about the other revenues category. I'd just be curious to see a breakdown of what those other revenues are.
What page is that on?
Sorry, I'm getting used to my new computer here. 5. And not because I'm just curious. It's a significant.
No, that's other revenue on the financial statements?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I can produce the background to that.
Yeah, I'd just be curious to know what our revenue streams are other than taxation. And
Yep.
Yeah.
Other questions? Councillor D'Andrade?
Actually, it's a question just about reading it. I was just curious when I saw on the page before, the one she mentioned, Councilor Ladwig mentioned, the liabilities. There's a long-term debt, and there's account payable deferred revenue, and then development cost charge, and 10,000, and then net debit, 2.7. I kind of didn't understand, the interpretation.
Right. So it's really the difference between financial assets and liabilities that gives you the net debt number. And although I don't have a definition top of head, I can also provide a definition of what that net debt is. Yep. That's where the confusion comes, is the definition. Yep.
Other questions? Okay, so recommendation is that the 2018 Statement of Financial Information be approved. Councillor Kroll, Councillor Ladwig, all in favor? Thank you. Okay, we're now into council reports, and invite any councillors who wish to report anything to bring that forward. Councillor Kroll.
Thank you, Mayor Beamish. I represented the town along with Councillor Ladwig at the May 26th recognition in Ducal Park for the Special Olympics. And personally, I found it a very moving event because there's some amazing members of the community who are supported by a totally amazing group of volunteers, and they participate in sports on an international level. There's a young girl who sadly wasn't at the event. She was on her way back from an event back east, but she's won several gold medals in swimming and won international recognition and broken world records. And I think that, it's amazing that Jenny Verge was the young girl who won the award. And I couldn't begin to just feel the commitment of the volunteers for Special Olympics in the community. It's, truly an amazing group. And, I personally would like to see them get greater support because it's a real uphill battle for them. Then on May 29th, we had our first meeting of the BC Ferries Advisory Committee. We'd had a preliminary meeting about 6 weeks prior, and there were a lot of issues came up. We sort of synthesized the prime issues to bring to the board the representatives from BC Ferries. There were 5 that we gave them the agenda prior to, so they've had a pretty good idea of what questions were coming. And in BC Ferries support, they brought the right people to answer the questions. It was a very encouraging meeting, and I think some of the issues that were brought up at the meeting will be addressed. Things like seniors going into Vancouver for medical treatment, maybe being hospitalized, suddenly being discharged, and now they're faced with getting onto BC Ferries in a timely manner. So some suggestions that the corporation was very responsive towards were brought up, and we're hoping for some fairly positive reactions there. On June 2nd, I represented council and at the cadet Skookumchuck Squadron Review. It was held at the local high school. There was an amazing turnout of the Air Cadets, and it was their 20th anniversary. The entire, what I would call parade exercise, was organized completely by the cadets. They did an amazing job. There was a color party review. At most levels, the regional district was represented. The mayor of Seashalt was there. Nicholas Simons was there. They challenged us all with having to present awards. But something that came out of it that really struck me. There was a young girl, her name's Anika Cleland Hura, and she delivered an address, and I got a hold of the coordinator of the event and asked if we could get a copy of her address. And it's basically how the address was given on skin hunger, which sounds a bit strange. But as a society, how we no longer have human contact. Everyone's got their little device and they're isolating themselves with it. And what she brought out in her address was, what's wrong with a hug? What's wrong with embracing a friend? And there's actually been clinical studies done where, it's proven that lack of contact with your fellow man is detrimental. I've asked for permission to to get a copy of her address, which I have, and I would like to make it available to the community, because it's an amazing address, and it just makes us realize how insular we're becoming. And it's difficult to deal with problems in society when we're all sitting with our little devices in our hand and disconnecting ourselves from the reality of the situation. So I would like to make a motion that this get added to our reading file or posted online, because I think it's a very powerful thing. And a number of us attended the water meeting in Seashell yesterday. One of our junior councillors was there, representatives of staff were there, which was really good to have their insight and support. But something that came out of that meeting in the opening remarks, which I think is particularly significant, is community division makes for poor decision making. And I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you. Councillor Diendrad?
On this segue, I attended, along with actually Mayor Beamish and Councillor Ledwig, and Councillor Crow couldn't go because he was at the BC Ferries meeting. The Green New Deal was organized by the environmental group from Elphinstone Environmental Group. I was really pleased and surprised to see the amount of people that came up, but also the different generations. So this, to me, was really touchy, right? It's not a specific group. I thought it was going to be just more the youth, because they are protesting about climate change. But I saw people of all ages. And so we all came up with ideas and solutions. But what I enjoy, I mean, every table came up with solutions, but also there was they came really strongly in terms of requesting governments to enact policies that addressed, the status quo and move us forward to the new green economy and fair economy, which is really important. This is about the Green Deal. So I really appreciate the opportunity of seeing that. So I think it's a positive thing. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Ludwig?
Well, most of my events have been covered very, very well, I'd have to say, by Councillor Kroll and Councillor DeAndrade. The only thing that I think we're missing, you guys forgot, was the welcoming reception for the Lieutenant Governor, which was a great event. And I guess the other thing that was new for this week is that I chaired our first Planning and Development Committee. So our inaugural committee is finally started, and hopefully it's off to a good start. So that's it for me.
Councillor Lumley?
Yeah, just on the heels of the fireworks and Sea Cavalcade, I was approached by somebody who's he's in our community. He runs a company here. I put him in touch with the CAO. He was specifically wanting to volunteer as a director or an executive director for the Sea Cavalcade. And since then I've had 2 meetings with several, actually with a number of people, and these are kind of business leaders. Some have been here a while, some have just got here and are successful and doing well, and they'd like to see the resurgence of Sea Cavalcade. And I guess the next step is that we'll probably bring something to the CAO again, and maybe get together and try and form maybe a new committee. Wishing well all the people that have volunteered for years and have done a great job. But I think these people have some really interesting ideas on how to take the pressure off the volunteers, like to have fewer volunteers and take the financial pressure off the town. Anyway, I just wanted to let you guys know that there is something in the works, and I could fully see the next year the festival coming up again with a shiny new color on it. So
That's good to hear. I guess the only caveat I would say is that Sea Cavalcade Society owns the Sea Cavalcade name, so you have to deal with them in that context, so that they would be, I'm sure, pleased to entertain that sort of thing. Good. Okay, I have some events that I participate in, as well as some upcoming dates, because I think it's important to also be aware of what is coming up in the shorter term, in the near term. Firstly, for council, I provided copies of the Policing Committee minutes and the Transportation Committee minutes of the SCRD, and I understand at the next Plan and Development Committee meeting, the Transportation Manager and staff will be here to make a presentation. Who's interested in that? So you'll see those in your baskets if you haven't already pulled them. So the other thing I did is I've written a letter on town's behalf through council to Minister Trevina, and that was dealing with Highway 101. And I'll just briefly read some of it, not the whole thing, but I'm writing to request that your ministry implement a consultation and planning process with residents of the Sunshine Coast regarding safety upgrades to 1A1 and the eventual addition of a bypass between Langdale and Seashelt. Recently, while driving to Seashelt, I observed another accident on the Highway 101 that resulted in a vehicle being overturned in a ditch on a narrow portion of road. I do not know the cause or if anyone was injured, but that's not the point. It happened, and it will happen again until this highway is doubled with a bypass route to move traffic safely for our most vulnerable users on our coast. Highway 101 is more than a route between BC ferries in Langdale and Egmont. It is a local road for residents of Gibsons, Elphinstone, Roberts Creek, and Seashelt. It is a transit and bus route with children standing on the road to be picked up. It's a bicycle route. It's a truck route with many tanker trucks, logging trucks, and other heavy-duty vehicles using it daily. It's a tourism route with vehicles and bicycle traffic visiting our local communities while traveling towards Powell River and Vancouver Island on the highly promoted Circle Tour. It's a commercial business route serving local stores, 4 malls, Gibsons Pool, and Sunshine Coast Recreation Center. It's an emergency route providing access to the hospital in Seashelt. It's an evacuation route in case of fire, earthquake, or other emergencies. Minister, Highway 101 is no longer adequate or safe to provide all of these services at once, and as a result, lethal accidents happen. So we've sent that. There's a bit more in there, but we've sent that off to the minister and expressed the opportunity, the invitation to meet with her at any time in Victoria or here on the Sunshine Coast or in Vancouver, either before, after, or during UBCM. So we'll see. And I know the other communities on the Sunshine Coast are also concerned about Highway 101 and its current condition. We're not looking for a big double highway, looking for more of the model that, looking for an alternate highway going down the coast with some passing lanes. And the model you see on Vancouver Island was just that, although it's a bit more of a highway than we need, running from Nanaimo to Campbell River. It still provided access to the more meandering local road, which Highway 1 is for our community. So we sent that off. On May 22nd, Councillor Kroll and I attended a reconciliation tree blessing in Seashelt, a very interesting event, and that will be followed by a meetings in the Longhouse coming up in June on Aboriginal Day, and the tree will not be carved. The carving will not begin until after Aboriginal Day. So I suggest everybody's. Apparently it's a 3-day event, and the Longhouse will be open in Seashelt for visitors. The 24th, I attended the BC Schizophrenia annual general meeting. And the 25th, the Jack and Jill Play School event in Dougal Park, where also Ann Law, a longtime teacher, was being recognized. On the 27th, I participated in my first provincial Urban Deer Advisory Committee meeting, so that if you see any deer around that are looking for advice, just let me know where they are. And there'll be more information about that in the future, but it's interesting the extent and scope of that problem throughout the province, translocation has been a popular way of handling them, and it has some things you learn. If you translocate a deer from your community to another community or to another area, and it wanders into another community, it's still your deer. And you're responsible to remove it out of that community. So that, but the good thing about it is, or a bad thing, I guess, the survival rate's very low, so that they don't last very long. And the other program is a program in Oak Bay and a couple other communities where they're actually inoculating them for against getting pregnant. Okay, so that's what they're doing. Again, very expensive program. So embrace our deer while we have them, and because if we want to get involved in moving them or inoculating them, it's a huge cost. The water dialogues, as already mentioned, the next one is tomorrow night at the Legion, and they were very well attended in Sechelt. A lot of good information exchange, of very good presentations from the regional district, and I will be participating tomorrow night along with our staff. The Sunshine Coast Community Foundation annual general meeting, I met with them. I strongly encourage the foundation to come around to all of the councils. They are known, or have been well known on the coast here, but with all the new elected officials and when they apply for grants, it's difficult to consider them because they do have funds, but we need to know what work they do and what they need the grants for, primarily vital signs. We had a second session of strategic planning here. I also attended the Alfie New Green Deal event. The transportation wind-up, the Lieutenant Governor. I met today with the administrator, with the manager of the Howe Sound Pulp and Paper. Had a good meeting and opened that door there for ongoing meetings. Coming up events, I think important to probably look at is the June 8th Town Hall event on the environment, again, at Alfie School. I encourage you to come out and participate in that one. There's other things going on that day, namely the home show, but the students and the event is very important, and I would recommend you take that in. On June the 10th, there's a meeting in Sechelt on urban interface fires, and that's being put on by the community forest, and that again is an important event, so that if you're interested in the issue around urban interface fires and fire prevention, that would be a good event to take in. And then on the 15th, there's another cadet review. I'll be attending that one. And importantly, June the 22nd, Locked In for Love. Apparently I'm going to be locked up in the SPCA for love, and I have to be bailed out. I will be looking towards my friends to do that. And if you want to pay a little bit more, I think there's also the opportunity for inoculation there too, so we'll see. So those are events. It's a busy month. May, June has been a very busy month for us with events. A lot goes on, and a lot of organizations want the mayor or council to be present, and we try to take them all in. I think we may occasionally miss some of them, but as summer approaches and people go on holidays, those events start to drop off for us, so that we will get through June, and we will get through graduation as well. That comes up towards the end of the month, both here and in chat. So, and Councillor Stipek, sorry, I wasn't going to ignore you, but.
Thank you. My council report will be a little bit more brief. Last Monday, I believe it was May 27th, Youth Councillor Lewis and Councillor Kroll and I attended the Capilano 2030 Envisioning Forum. So that was like a community discussion with the Capilano administration about what we would like the university to provide for our community in terms of services and courses, and how we can make it more open to connecting with the Indigenous community in Sechelt. So that was a really interesting event with a lot of different perspectives, and I was really happy to take part in that. Another thing that was a little bit less connected with the town, I organized the first annual Spring Chicken Run, which many of you have probably seen the signs around town and stuff. And so we had 80 local Gibsons members running in that race, and that was a lot of fun. That was on May 19th. So next year, maybe we can get council running a team in there.
I'm sure you will. Thank you. I just want to say something about the youth program. We only have a couple more meetings that our youth will be with us, and then they'll be off for the summer and they'll be doing other things. And the Lieutenant Governor came here last week, and she had been well briefed, but she was specifically interested in meeting our youth councillors. Unfortunately, Councillor Stipek couldn't be there. Councillor Lewis was there, and had a good conversation and good engagement with Lieutenant Governor at that time. And she has actually asked us to send her written information about the program. When I was at a meeting myself at Cap University about 2 weeks ago, I had two communities, West Vancouver and Squamish, both express interest in receiving information as well about the program. So the word is out there that we're doing something different in Gibsons, and you can all be very proud of how our students, how our youth councillors have represented you within the community and within their community. And we really appreciate that, and we will have more to say about that at our next council meeting. Thank you. So we're now on to Councillor Ladwig. Yeah.
Are we allowed to ask questions of council update?
Definitely. Yeah.
I'm wondering about recreation at the SCRD. When and how and where does that come up, and has it come up yet? Anything like I know there's a transportation subcommittee. There's a
Well, they recently, it comes up in the context of the meeting, infrastructure committee meeting.
So infrastructure.
So the most recent thing was the extension of the ICE to include August.
Okay.
And that was the most recent thing that came up there. So it was consistent with the discussions they had with the ICE users in the spring, and they came up to an opportunity to put ICE in the Gibsons Recreation Center in August.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just asking because we did get a number of questions during the election about different, a variety of different recreational things. And it's just something that we haven't discussed since we've been on council. Right. And so I just wanted to flag that's something.
It's not a specific meeting. It says there will occasionally be reports on recreational activities. For example, they just recently replaced all of the fitness equipment in both here and in
I work out the
Seychelles. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's good for now. Thank you.
Yeah. Other questions? Okay. New business. Councillor Ledwig, you wanted to bring forward the idea of a select committee on affordable housing.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
So, I have been interested in forming some kind of an affordable housing committee for some time. I'm very interested in developing an affordable housing strategy, which is something that other communities are much further advanced in than we are. And the affordable housing strategies can involve everything from zoning incorporations into the OCP to accommodate affordable housing to our position on taxation. There's a number of things that we could put into our affordable housing strategy. And this is, again, something that came up during the election that I've been very interested in seeing us develop. And so I will put the motion out there that I would like to form an affordable housing, I guess, if council feels that that's the appropriate.
A select committee is a good way to do it.
Is that a good, yeah.
It consists of a member of council and members from the community at large who would be invited to apply for positions on it.
Okay, so I would like to make a motion that we form an affordable housing standing committee, select committee to develop an affordable housing strategy.
And would you be prepared to chair that committee?
I guess I have to, don't I?
You don't have to, but
yes, I would.
Yes, okay. Okay, motion. Let's get it on the floor first. Second, Councillor Kroll. Discussion?
It's just more a question. Is any council member entitled or allowed to sit in the committee?
Every council member would be can be an ex officio member of a committee like that. They're allowed to attend the committee meetings and participate in discussion. It depends upon how we structure it. But terms of reference will be drawn up for it. And you can have more than one member of council on a committee, but usually a select committee is a member of council. Must be chaired by a member of council.
No, I understand.
Yeah,
One
right.
will chair, but I'm just wondering if it's not mandatory, but if any member wants to sit,
Absolutely.
I just want to get clear. Thank you.
Councillor Kroll?
I certainly support Councillor Ladwig in the thing, and anything I can do to help. Councillor Ladwig and I have been involved in a couple of things that we've been sort of putting feelers out in the community to address the housing situation. So I would be happy to assist in any way possible.
Yeah. I think the big thing of these committees when we form them is obviously at some point they need to have staff support. And we have to be very cautious of that we're not kind of creating them. But the terms of reference will talk about that as to how we deal with staff support sort of thing. It doesn't automatically assume that the planner is going to sit with you every meeting sort of thing. So that, yes, go ahead.
Can we actually ask staff's views on this now as we're here?
No.
We can't do that now.
Let's move forward with the. All in favor of the resolution first. Okay, thank you. And then when we do in the context of the terms of reference, and what I would suggest that you might want to do is help out that process as well.
Sorry, excuse me, Ms. Mayor. We were going to ask for a follow-up motion if you could identify the scope and purpose so that we could draft those terms of reference.
Yes, yeah. Well, we can look at that. Define scope and purpose. Yeah. Let's bring that forward at the next in the next conversation, not at this meeting right now, because we need to focus on that a bit and do that. And I would suggest that you might want to go on Civic Info and look at Affordable Housing Select Committee. Because they have all sorts of examples throughout the province where you can find those, and the same as you might find the same on a tree select committee, and that helps you to help staff formulate the idea that you want to put forward. Okay. Any other new business? Councillor Kroll.
We just missed 10.1. We didn't address correspondence.
Oh, we missed correspondence. We'll come back to correspondence right now. Okay, there is items of correspondence that were highlighted from the May 21st correspondence list. Is there anything there that any member of council wants to bring forward? Most of these have been addressed and dealt with in other forms. I
would just like to say thank you for writing that letter to Minister Trevina, because I brought up the Highway 101 last time, and I fully supported that. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing nothing come forward, we'll move on then to we did new business. We have no new business. This is our second inquiry opportunity now for anybody to bring up an inquiry, that question. Blake, Mr. McLeod. Yeah. I do want to give everybody a heads up that we have to move at 8:30 into an in-camera session, so that we have time to finish before 9 o'clock. So that we will be doing that. So
it's a quick question as to the statement made by the CAO as to whether that would be available as part of the public record online on the government or the town website.
It is now part of the public record because it was read in the public record.
Does it require an FOI or is it going to be on the town website?
Okay, require an FOI. Yeah.
The recording is available on our website.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Media, Connie.
Just quickly on the rainbow crosswalk, I was wondering when you'd be doing your installation and where.
Mr. Newman?
So we've already approached the line painting company to come in and do that. The materials are on order. He is hoping that they will be in sometime early to mid-June, but no guarantee on that, but that's what we're shooting for. And the 3 crosswalks that are slated for this treatment is at 5 corners, and that will be the three crosswalks where Garrow Point, School Road, and Gibsons Way meet down in Lower Gibsons there.
Now, is this paint or is this that heat vinyl that was used in Seashelt to do the colored crosswalks?
It is, through you, Mr. Mayor, it is what's called thermoplast, which is not paint, and it's a slightly different design. Well, it is a different design from the one in Seashelt. It's more like a zebra crosswalk than a series of solid color, and we chose that largely because of making sure that it stands up to wear and tear. There's less color on the ground, but it's actually quite a striking appearance because you've got white on the outside and then a series of colored stripes alternating with, of course, the black asphalt. And they've done that elsewhere, and it, as I say, is quite a striking appearance.
Thank you.
Mr. Sapersky?
You can state your name for the record.
Jerry Zapersky. Mr. Mayor and Council, I'd just like to ask a couple questions as it related to the CAO's report. And I appreciate that it was clarified that you weren't aware in advance of the comments. I'm putting that aside for the moment. What my question is where this goes from here in terms of the public. There were some very comprehensive and serious statements expressed, and I think it's very important that the Council shows our community, takes the leadership in terms of hearing and supporting our staff. We know that the only way that we can advance and progress activities and healthy, sustainable life in our community is with a council that provides the strong leadership and where it also, wherever possible, supports the staff. And we hear about how our staff are plagued with many responsibilities and activities, and we don't have enough staff to deal with all the issues that come up. And obviously the kind of things that were raised today have taken an inordinate amount of time from our staff. So I think it's important that our community hears from you, Mr. Mayor and Council, as to once you have a chance to understand more of the comments that were made by Mr. Machado, and then I think it's important, obviously, that our community gets some kind of feedback.
Yes, thank you. I'm sure Council will be discussing that presentation. I don't want to be later this evening, but before the next Council meeting, so that I would add to that. I suppose that one thing that we are also facing is that we received a letter this week from a group that was complaining again about staff and again different things that was forwarded to the Auditor General for Local Government, to our Municipal Insurance Association, to the Minister of Municipal Affairs, and to the RCMP for investigation. So we'll be also anticipating hearing from them in terms of their questions relative to the issues that were raised in that letter. Okay, there being no further questions, it is 8:27. I want to thank everybody for coming, and I've got a further statement I have to read here. It says we have a motion to close, that the meeting will be closed in accordance with sections 91G, I, J, and K of the Community Charter. Litigation or potential litigation affecting municipality. Receipt of advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications. Information is prohibited, or information that, if it were presented in a document, would be prohibited from disclosure under Section 21 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, and negotiations and related discussions respecting proposed provision of municipal service that are at our preliminary stages, and that, in the view of Council, could reasonably be expected to harm the interest of the municipality if they were held in public. So could I have a motion to that effect? Moved by Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor Ladwig. All in favor? Good.